Hey, what's going on?
Hey Don, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Good to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
The Mighty Adam, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love the Mighty Atom.
Fantastic. So tell me a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I live here in Michigan. I'm married. I've got three little girls, and steel bending's my main passion and obsession. I love to destroy the steel.
Awesome. Okay, so we did get a couple fan questions that came in. So what got you into short braced bending?
Honestly, I don't know. No idea. I don't even remember the first time I ever did that style of bending. I do almost every style of bending. So, some people like specialize in one different thing. I always like the concept of being good at, all the different types of bending. So, I do all the different unbraced, double overhand, reverse. I do all the different long bar, short bar, mid bar, horseshoes, wrenches. I kind of do a little bit of everything. So I don't really remember how I got into those short kind of braced ones to start with, but it definitely is a style that I have a lot of power with that, I've gotten some of my best success with big bars on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen some of the videos of your short bends. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really a position that you can create a tremendous amount of force with. And I think I recommend that type of bending for, a lot of different athletes besides benders, because you really teach your body how to generate force with, when I'm bending like that, I'm literally using my pinky toe on my foot. I feel like I'm using every last fiber of my body to generate force.
That's great. Yeah, it really helps the explosiveness. From what I've gathered I've only been doing it for a few months, but I feel it's helped my explosiveness for sure.
Yeah, you learn how to coordinate all the fibers and nerves in your body to work together, to fire at the same time to build as much explosion and strength as you can.
That's awesome. So why the massive volume marathons, and what do you gain from those?
Yeah, so that's it's become something that I like too. The first time I ever did it was on my 40th birthday. I wanted to do some sort of birthday challenge. So I came up in my mind, I was going to bend 40 red nails on my 40th birthday. And I got the idea because I had read about on the grip board and what Greg Amadon and Dave Morton, and I believe 2005 bending 100 red nails. That was something that always had stuck out in my mind and just was the most badass, cool feat to me. And then on my 40th birthday, I'm like, well, why don't I get 40 ago? And so I've been 40 of them, and it just destroyed my fucking hands. And I was in so much pain, and it really sucked. And, any thought of doing 100 kind of went out of my head. But then I started thinking about it more and decided that it was, such a badass feat that I really did want to give it a legitimate chance. And that was my first real big endurance feat. And I think the endurance feats are something that's really kind of tailored for me mentally. Like, that's always been one of my, good attributes, I think, is just not quitting. Just no matter what it is, whether it was wrestling in college or whatever, you just being able to push yourself through pain. And that's what those things are all about. It's not about max strength. I mean, a lot of people can bend one red nail, but when you string together 100 of them, it's just about when your hands are torn apart and you're bleeding, just making yourself keep going. And there's something about that I really enjoy. And so I've done quite a few of those different kind of big endurance feats.
Have you done more than 40 of the reds in succession yet?
You said 40?
Yeah, have you done more than that? Have you done the 100?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, I've done way bigger than that. So that was on my 40th birthday. The next summer, I did 102 red nails, and a little over 2 hours. Wow. And then, so my big endurance feats really are, I did 102 red nails, double overhand. Then last summer, I had some big endurance feats I wanted to do. I did 60 gold nails braced in a row, and that was on my 42nd birthday. Then I did the Devil's Challenge, which back in 2005, after those guys did the 100 red nails, John Beatty, the owner of Fat Bastard Barbell Company, came up with the Devil's Challenge as like the next step up.
Okay.
which was bending 66 6-inch bastards double overhand. And nobody ever did it. He came up with the challenge in 2005, but nobody had ever done it. And I did that in July last summer. And it was a really hard batch of bastards. They felt almost like drill rod. They were very hard on the crush. So that one,
15 years.
that was quite a step up from the 100 reds.
Wow.
And then I did the full box of 60 penny nails and then the 725. So those have been kind of my big endurance feats that I've liked.
Yeah, I saw the stack of 725. That's nuts, man.
Yeah, that was good. That was for Noah's Army for Bud Jeffrey's son and his fundraiser. I did it for that. So that was definitely a fun feat.
So you recently got the shortest 3/4 inch bar at 3 foot. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that one. People have been shorter with the European steel, but with the A36, the US steel, it's I think a little bit tougher a lot of times. Some of the batches of the 275 from England are tougher than the 3/4 we have, but that's the shortest I've seen is 36 inches. That's the shortest on Davidson list. Last couple of months, that's what I've been focusing on, the long bars. There's so many different positions with them and different movements and angles. They're a lot of fun to work.
So the question was, where do you plan on going from there? Are you going to go shorter or are you going to try to go thicker?
I mean, I may try to go shorter at some point here, but I got some other bars I want to try. Right now, I need to start training for my competition. So I have my Michigan Steel Bending and Breaking Championship in May. So I need to start getting, training all the different styles to get myself back ready for that. So at some point, I'm going to have to focus on that more. But I got other bars I want to do. I want to do the Leviathan that Carl did. I want to do the Wonder Bar. I want to do 3/4 square at 48 inches. I'd like to do 7/8 at 48 inches. So definitely probably thicker, but I may go shorter too. I don't know, just whatever I end up feeling like.
That's some crazy territory. The only guy I've ever heard of bending that thick a bar is Jeff Capes. And it's just nuts.
What did he bend? I saw something. I remember reading an old grip board post sometime about it, some bend of his, but
I'm
there was
not 100%
controversy
sure.
around it. People were kind of questioning what he actually bent and whether it was legitimate. And I can't remember exactly, but I remember reading something about
I
it.
think the biggest they ever did in contest was 3/4, but he had claims of 7/8 and even 1 inch.
Okay.
So, but nobody really knows for sure.
Yeah.
He actually was reached out to about it and responded and said he did 1 inch. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's I mean, you'd have to be a gorilla to do it for sure. 1 inch is huge. Every little step up is just a huge difference in steel. On the 7/8 of the A36 steel, Bud Jeffries is the only one I've seen who he didn't bend it all the way to the U, but he's got like a pretty damn good kink in it. It's a pretty nice angle in it that he did. And then there's on David Horn's list, there's I believe maybe 2 guys who've done 22 millimeter. And I think 22 millimeter is pretty close to 7/8. I think they may be the correlation.
Yeah.
But I think that the steel wasn't as strong as the A36 steel. So I don't know what 7/8. I've never really even tried the 7/8, but I need at some point in time to try it.
Man, to know that Bud Jeffries is the guy that kinked it and he's a monster. That's some tough steel, I'd imagine then.
Yeah, Bud's very strong.
Okay, so getting into these questions, this is just kind of like a conversation, so you just answer right off the cuff, whatever you feel. So please describe for me in as much detail as possible your experience throughout a bend.
Throughout the actual bending process or kind of leading up to it?
Well, leading up to it's actually the next question, so you can take on both.
Okay. Lots of times, and these aren't like, this isn't just for like a normal training bend or, that something like that. This is for like a big bend that matters a lot to me. It starts way before I ever go to bend that thing. I'm really big on setting goals. And so I always come up with goals that I want, and there always got to be something big and something that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do or not. And, then I just obsess about it. I get a game plan on how I'm going to get there. I write it down, I'll carry around it written down on a piece of paper in my pocket. And I think about it all the time. And then I will visualize doing the bend. You know, I'll just repeat in my head over and over, I can and I will do whatever the bend is. You know, it's a real big part for me is visualization, and then also just talking to myself about it, and, you know, positivity with it. And so whenever I go to do the bend, it's been done many, 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 many times in my head already, where it's, you know, I'm just ready to go by that point in time. And now I don't do this for everything, but like for something that's like a real big important bend. So that's how everything kind of starts with those types of bends. And then when I go up to do it, you know, I try to be real meticulous with everything. I'm meticulous with my wraps. You know, I have a game plan going into it on the techniques I'm going to use and what's going to be the best way to get that bar bent or bars bent. And then when it goes to it, you know, you've got to be able to kind of kick in that extra gear that everyone knows, you know, like the old timers would say, remove the governor or flip the switch, whatever it is. And for me, it's something I've learned to do pretty easily get there. So like right before the bend, sometimes you'll see me, I like kind of, you know, I just start like breathing really fast. Like I kind of like, I almost make myself hyperventilate real quick, and I'll kind of twitch my fingers. And I don't, it's just, I don't know why I do that. I've never like consciously did that, but I see it on videos, and now I think about it. I'm like, you know, trying to get my nerves and everything firing and get me in that right mind frame where then, you know, I can explode in the bar and really maximize and get all my muscle fibers and everything I need to get that bar bent.
That's wild. Yeah, your body, I mean, it knows what to do. It knows what it needs to accomplish the task. So
Yeah, you really have to teach
cool.
yourself. So it's not something that you just have. Like it's a process. I think it takes, you know, years to get good at, to be able to, because you have that governor. Your body wants you not to use 100% of your fibers, you know, to protect yourself. And you have to, you know, I think it's a slow thing where you just gradually learn to use more and more of your fibers and, you know, percentage of your internal power. And I think that's one thing steel bending is great at that can carry over to other sports, is that you learn how to build that pressure and that power and, you know, recruit all your muscle fibers and your nerves, you know, how to make all your nerves fire, to coordinate with your muscles.
That's huge. That mind-body connection helps tremendously.
It's huge.
I mean, I mainly do martial arts, but yeah, it helps tremendously in martial arts. I mean, with applying power to your strikes.
Yeah, I remember you talking about, you said maybe it was that Derek's interview where you talked about your thesis was with the block breaking, or
Yeah, exactly. Power.
you gotta imagine that's a similar thing where you've got to get yourself, you know, where everything's firing, all your power's going down into it to one focal point. I imagine it's a similar type, you know, exercise to get yourself there.
Absolutely. That's what kind of drawed me into steel bending, is I thought, well, this is going to be similar in pumping myself up to that explosion on the brick breaking with maybe a little less chance of injury. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't completely figured that out yet, but so far, no injury with steel bending.
Yeah, God.
So what's your experience like after completing the bend and dealing with adrenaline dump?
Yeah, I mean, if I complete the bend, you know, I'm happy, obviously. As far as adrenaline dump, I mean, I have had times where I, like, say, and normally when I've had the experience more is after the big endurance feats, because on all of the recent ones, like I go to bed the night before and I'll wake up really early. I'll wake up at like 4:30 or 5 just because I can't stop thinking about it. And my body's just like getting in that state that it needs to be in. And I just feel the juices flowing. And then you know, you ride that and you bend for 3 hours or whatever in a row. And then when it's done, I'm normally good for about a half an hour. But then after that half hour, my body just crashes. And you know, I'll have to lay down, and sometimes I've laid down after doing one of those big endurance feats and woken up like 4 hours later or something. So I've dealt with the adrenaline like that. With single bends, I don't know. I don't feel too much of an adrenaline dump. There are times where I always think I tap out my central nervous system, where sometimes you know, you are training on the nerve and relying on that too much, where you get central nervous system fatigue and really tap out. And that's kind of a weird feeling where you kind of feel loopy and just feel off, and, you know, you don't feel right. And I try not to do that too often. But when you do go to, you know, I feel like max power, you know, you probably do end up fatiguing that central nervous system, but it's not something I like to do a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I can't imagine doing several hours of bending, what that would be like. think the most I've done in a session is just like a handful, 5 or 6
Yeah.
times. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's tears your hands up. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, I saw that on the 700. You were tore up like halfway through. It's just nuts.
Your hands, I've done what I can to train them before those to get them as tough as possible. But it really doesn't matter how tough you get them. They're gonna at some point just start tearing. They just can only withstand so much, and then you just got to deal with the pain and try to push through it.
That's wild. So, can you describe for me a time when your emotions affected your performance during a bend? And just how your emotions play in bending in general?
Yeah, I'm not a super emotional bender. Like, I don't rely on my emotions to get me crazy or anything before the bend. I normally, and just in general, my kind of personality is, I'm kind of a more laid back type person. So I don't get too wild swings, either way with bending really. There have been a few situations where I have gotten frustrated in the middle of a bend and gotten, angry. Like, I think the giant killer combo that I did, and the bend took almost half an hour, but when the bend wasn't moving, there was a point where I got pissed off and got pretty angry, and I ended up finishing the bend off. And so there are times where I will get emotion come into me in the bend. But for the most part, I would rather emotion not be a part of the bend. I've already done it in my mind. I already have done my training. I know I'm ready. I know I can do it. And it's just about execution and, just exploding and being powerful and getting the bend done. So most of the time, emotion doesn't play a huge part to me, unless it's, where I'm not getting it done and I have to, I get a little frustrated and I have to, get angry to get it done, which it doesn't happen often. And I prefer not to do it that way, but I have done it that way before.
What do you feel you gain from getting angry? Do you get stronger? Are you able to deal with does it make your body tougher, harder? Are you able to, bend far harder against on a brace? What does it do with your body? What do you feel that the anger does?
And I don't think I'm stronger when I'm angry, because otherwise I would get angry every time.
Yeah.
I still probably wouldn't, because to me, bending's something fun that I get joy out of, and I don't want to. If it's associated with anger and stuff like that, it's not what I want out of the thing that I love in life. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily think I get stronger in general. I maybe would try to tap into it once in a while. It's been just, out of more frustration, I think, a few times. But it was, I completed the bends then. I did get myself kicked into a little bit of an extra gear out of necessity, I guess. But it's not something I use very often. And it's not something conscious when it happens. It just happens.
Okay. Let's see. So what is your mental attitude, and how does that come into play in your bending experience? You mentioned a lot about positivity, making sure you're very positive going into a bend.
Yeah, it's positivity and confidence are everything to me with bending. And actually, earlier in the day, I listened to a little bit of your interview with Jason. I don't know if you did that yesterday and it was just released today or what, but I saw it. I didn't listen to a lot of it. I only had about 15, 20 minutes at work to listen to it. But I heard him talking about motivation and muscle, Eric Fiorillo's podcast. And I used to love listening to that podcast too.
Yeah,
and one thing,
archives of that, so I just started listening to it last night.
There's great episodes. The ones with Adam Glass are awesome. The one with Jeffries are awesome. There's a lot of great ones on there. But he was really big into like positivity and how you talk to yourself. And he would always start off every show with, he would tell you to stand up and take a deep breath in and then breathe it out, and then repeat after him and say, I am a winner. I am a champion. I am unstoppable. And he was really big in how you talk to yourself. And so I picked that up from him. And so I have all sorts of different things that I've come up with that are important to me. And I'll repeat them in my head all the time throughout the day. And, they have to deal with bending and stuff. And it's, you're just beefing yourself up and making yourself feel good and making yourself feel strong. And when you're really positive with yourself and your mind and your body are working together as one team, I think you're capable of so much more. And it gives you just that confidence, you know, and like I said, I'll repeat, like say it's the, you know, 3/4 by 36 bend, you know, I'll say I can and I will bend the 36-inch bar. I can and I will bend a 36-inch bar. And I'm like just imagining myself bending that bar while I say it. So positivity and confidence to me are everything, and maybe the most important thing about leading up to the bend for me mentally.
So would you say that's pretty much all you're thinking about leading up to a bend?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about getting it done. Um, you know, when I'm rapping and everything, I just, you know, I start feeling the drive and the energy coming through me, and I'm just, yeah, just thinking about doing the bend and thinking about exploding into the bar, thinking about my technique I want to use, and yeah, just getting it done. By the time, you know, you get close to the bar, it's, you know, in my mind, it's already done. Now, sometimes it doesn't get finished, but I already believe that I can do it and that I will do it. And that belief, I think, is huge.
Okay. Can you describe for me in as much detail as possible how aggression comes into play during your bending?
Yeah, it was what we talked about before with the anger. It doesn't really play too much of a part. I mean, I try to bend powerfully and explosively, you know, kind of in an aggressive
Positive
fashion.
aggression?
But it's not like aggression, like a rage or something
Yeah.
like that. You know, I know some people harness that and use that, but I don't normally, unless, like I said, a few times I've gotten frustrated and used it. So most time I mean, it's kind of physical aggression. I mean, bending is just kind of an aggressive thing. You're trying to explode and forcefully mangle something. And so like physically it is an aggressive endeavor, but mentally it's, you know, I'm not thinking like real aggressive anger, you know, type thoughts.
Okay. That actually is another question leading up to it. Can you describe for me in as much detail as possible how you actually apply your physical self-control during your bends?
I think for physical self-control, I mean, I try to stay in control of myself for sure. And I think if, you know, I'm not in physically control of myself, I'm probably not using the perfect technique, and I'm probably not being smart and transitioning in the right places. You know, I try to be meticulous, you know, with the wrapping and all the positions, you know, especially in those long bars, and or say it's like a speed bending where you got multiple bars. There's a strategy that I have in my head that's going to be the best way to bend the bar. And if I lose control of myself, you know, I'm not going to be using the strategy that I think is optimal. And so you know, I normally have that strategy laid out, and I try to stick to the plan and stay in control.
So, what's your incentives for completing a bend? What do you get out of it?
Satisfaction. I mean, it kind of goes along with you know, the goals. You know, that's the whole purpose of a goal, is eventually completing it. And so when you've got something that, you know, when I pick a goal and I decide it's something that's worthwhile for me to obsess about and game plan and stuff, it's something that's important. It's something I think is either just a badass feat, or I think is really cool, or, you know, for whatever reason, maybe not a lot of people have done it, or nobody's done it, or, you know, whatever. For some reason, it's important to me. And so then when I've put in all of the effort and time to get myself ready and you complete it, it's a good feeling for sure. It ends up being a feeling that I feel like doesn't stick around long. You know, I have that satisfaction, but then it's, you know, I try not to live in it too long. You know, I'm satisfied, but then I'm looking for the next thing. I'm looking for the next bend to do, the next goal. Um, so it is satisfying and happy for sure, but then I'm normally moving on fairly soon.
Okay. Are your goals always just to bend the bar, or do you have specific goals within bending that you want to accomplish?
What do you mean?
Well, like maybe you just want to move a bar this much, or maybe you want to bend it without a certain feeling, or maybe you want to try to bend, see if you can bend this bar with less intensity than you had to use last time, or maybe in a different mindset or methodology of approaching it.
The goal is just to complete the bar, you know, and it may be specifications with the bar. Maybe the bar needs to be done in 5 minutes, or,
Okay.
you know, whatever it is. So the ultimate goal is just to get, you know, the steel bent. But to progress to that goal, there may be different steps. You know, maybe it's, it is doing stuff faster. The bar that's a little bit longer, one way to progress to the shorter bar is to, maybe the longer bar took you 10 minutes the first time. So then the next time I try to do it quicker, and then you get it in 7 minutes and you get it in 5, and you're getting stronger and more effective and powerful as you're getting your time down. So there may be things like that I use to progress and to make me a better bender. But it's probably not the ultimate goal.
That's great. No, that's good info, definitely. So can you describe for me in as much detail as possible anytime you felt nervous or anxious, either before or during a bend?
I normally don't get too nervous. I mean, I will get, I don't know if it's anxiousness or what, but it's, you just start feeling like, you just feel like going through your body. And I think it is kind of nerves and a little bit of anxiousness. I'll feel that, kind of building up to it. Now, I like that. I just harness that energy. And I feel like whenever you kind of get that little bit of nervousness and stuff, it's a good thing. And same like before a wrestling match or something, when I wrestled it, that's a good thing that you can use to your advantage. Some people, it's a negative thing, and it can, the nerves and stuff can cripple them. But I think I always try to flip stuff on its head. If it's something that could be negative, flip it into a positive. And any of those nerves or anxiousness, I just, I try to flip it to extra energy in me that I can harness. The most nervous I ever was before a feat was the 100 red nails. It's the only time I've ever, like, with bending, really started second guessing myself and stuff. It was a night before my wife and kids were out of town. They were up in northern Michigan with my wife's mom. And I started overthinking it, and I started getting nervous and like getting negative thoughts in my head, where I was thinking that I wasn't going to be able to do the feat. And I had never had that happen before or since, really, like that. But it was, I got real kind of.
Did you go straight from 40 to the 100?
No, I can tell you progression on that for sure. So, but with the, what I ended up doing, because I'm just sitting there at home, I'm by myself, and I'm like starting to doubt myself, and I'm like, fuck, man, what am I gonna do here? So I ended up watching, like, I love the old Rocky movies. And I shit you not, the night before I watched Rocky 4, then I watched Rocky 3, and that got me back in like a positive state of mind where I kind of felt pumped up. And then from there I was fine. I went and I did the feat. But no progression for the 100 reds. It's I did the 40 with no training. I just did the 40 on my birthday, which was like June 2nd. And then I didn't start training for the 100 until probably the next year, the next June. And then I did a progression. I did like 20. Then next week I did 30. Then the next week I did 40. Then the next week I did 50. And then the next week I did 102. Because in my head, you only need to absolutely destroy yourself like you're going to with the 100 or whatever one time. But you need to get yourself toughened up and conditioned. And so I think 50% of what the ultimate goal was is like kind of the sweet spot where you're getting your body ready and endurance to tough, but you're not, no reason to kill yourself twice. You only have to, make yourself not quit one time. Because it really, with that 50 to the 100, that's just all you not quitting. It's not your body's preparation. It's just you willing yourself to keep going.
That's crazy, man. So, how did that impact your performance? The anxiety you had the night before and going into the 100 bends?
Luckily, it didn't impact it at all. So I got it fixed. Now, if I wouldn't have gotten it fixed by watching damn Rocky helping me out, and it's weird. That's why I watched. But that movie, I have always loved that movie. Like, I was a kid when it came out. I don't know if I was like in 4th grade or something, but I literally remember going to the movie theaters, watching Rocky 4 and coming out and, boxing with my friends out. Like, it's always been a movie that kind of can get me pumped up. I don't watch it very often, but I used it for that purpose, and it got my head back right, and I was fine the next day. If I wouldn't have fixed it, I'm sure it would have hugely negatively impacted me. It can't go into something like that with doubt and stuff in my head. I mean, you got to get all that negative doubt or energy out of your head. You just need positivity and self-belief and going into something, I feel.
Is it Rocky 4 just because there's so many good Russian steel benders?
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. So can you describe for me in as much detail as possible how you personally judge yourself regarding your steel as a bender. So like what variables you use to judge yourself.
I don't know. I'm normally not really judging myself too much. I look for stuff that I think is cool and I think are worthy goals and are huge and, hard. And then I try to do it. And, if I do it, I feel good. And then I move on and try to do another one. It's ultimately, this is a fun activity for me. That's why I do it, because I have a lot of damn fun doing it. I love the whole process. I love, having to push myself mentally and the mental challenge of it all. So just the whole process of it is a good thing to me. It's not something where I'm judging myself and, am I good? Am I not good? Am I better than this person? Am I not better? It's the whole process is fun and I'm just trying to meet my goals.
How do you overcome like a weakness in your own bending capability? Like you're bending, you're going, oh, I may be weak in this area. And how do you judge that and then overcome that weakness?
Like for a style of bending?
Yeah, sure. For a style. Absolutely. For a position, anything like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that needs work, I'll focus on it, and maybe it needs extra training. Maybe I'll work on isometrics in that position, or do just do more bends that rely on that position. I'll get a game plan. It's always strategize and come up with what I think is the best way to get to the ultimate goal. And so if there's a weakness that's keeping me there, and honestly, I guess one example of that is something I've had to do recently with the long bars. I got to a point where I was, the bars, I was having trouble kinking. I've always been somebody who kinked on my knee. I would use the rowing technique on my knee. And I was starting to, bars were getting where it was hard for me to kink on my knee. And I just wasn't getting the damn kink, or kinked far enough where then I could go to a sweep. And so I had to get a game plan. And for a while I was working on isometrics with the kink. And then I ultimately decided it was better for me to learn how to kink between my legs with the bar, that style between your legs where you brace it and pull up. And so I thought that ultimately would be the answer to my kink problem. And it's worked. I've learned the technique and I feel stronger kinking in that position. The crush is always my strongest part, probably the sweep, my second strongest, and the kink, my weakest. So I had to, I guess in that scenario, come up with a way to get my kink up to par to do the bars that I knew I could finish. I just needed to get them in that position.
Yeah, I've noticed that on the biggest bars, people tend to switch to that position. They typically don't do them over the knee.
Yeah, some people do. I mean, some of the best benders still do them over the knee. But some people do it. I think it's a personal thing. Different people have different strengths and what feels good. And for me, it's that between the legs, I think is just, I'm much better at with the kink.
So you mentioned some thoughts that helped your performance, just thinking you could do the bend, saying you're going to do it, that self-talk. Have you ever had thoughts that hurt your performance going into a bend?
I mean, there's been sometimes, you just have a bad day and you're just not with it. You feel like shit for whatever reason. You're distracted. You're thinking about something at work or whatever. I'll have those days sometimes where I just don't feel good. And, if I'm having a day like that, I'll normally just switch it up and do something different. I won't try to do anything too big. And sometimes I will do something big though. Sometimes I'll be feeling like shit and I'll just say, okay, let's go in and just get started and see what happens. And you go in and do something. It feels pretty good. Oh, okay, well, let's try this. And you end up having a hell of a day. Or if I'm, don't get to that point, I'll just switch up. And oftentimes I'll just go to scrolling. I love steel scrolling, but there's so many different, it's hard to have a goal with scrolling. I mean, it's just kind of a fun artistic type process, but it's also a hell of a workout. And so on those days, lots of times I'll just switch up and scroll and get my scrolling in.
Yeah, the scrolling's cool. You don't see too many guys doing it. I think it's awesome.
And not tons of people do it, but it just for like training effect, it's hard to beat scrolling. I mean, it works you in every angle because you're using all sorts of weird positions and you're not really resting. You're just, you can work up a sweat. And when you get done, it works every little tendon in your body. It feels like, I've been pretty sore from big scrolls before. It's great training. And then you're left with, a cool piece of art when you're done.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the training that I focus on is functional training, and I think that's a fantastic form of functional training is the scrolling.
Absolutely. I don't think it gets any more functional than scrolling with steel bending.
So, have you ever experienced thoughts of past failures or a potential failure when you're going into a bend? Say, bending a bar you've maybe failed at before?
Um, I mean, I'm sure I've thought about it if there was some bar that I've been trying to do and failing, but um, failures don't bother me. Like, some people I think get frustrated with failures, but it's and maybe it's that thing where I always try to flip a negative into a positive. But for me, I don't mind failures at all. I mean, there's some days I go and train and I'll fail every bar I try. I may try some big bar, fail it. Okay, I'll try something else, fail it. They're all big bends, but to me, it's just part of the process. It's part of, making you stronger. And when you're going there and exerting max effort on that bar and it's not moving, I mean, you're working the hell out of yourself. You're getting, an intense workout in that part. So for me, it's the failure is all part of the process. And, I just look at it that way. I don't look at it as a negative thing. If I fail it, I just move on. I'll try it again. I failed a bar on Wednesday. I posted a picture of it, but it was the Harito 12.9 boat cut to 5.5 inches. The damn thing was so close. I mean, it is as close as you can get, but I failed the damn thing. And, but it doesn't bother me. I'm probably going to try it again tomorrow or next week. And, the way I look at it is I got stronger doing that whole process. And, now I can watch my video and see what worked and what didn't work. And I'm going to be more prepared the next time I hit the bar.
Yeah, I've heard the crush on that 12.9 has haunted a few guys. It's pretty monster.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd. The bolt's there's one picture, I did a still shot, and there's one picture from when I'm crushing between my legs where I swear my hands are almost touching. And then the bolt comes back. It's they're very springy bolts.
That's nuts, man. So describe for me as much detail. You mentioned this a little bit. You use visualization a lot. So what do you imagine in your mind before a bend? Like when you're warming up?
Yeah, I'm just, getting myself ready. I may be thinking about doing the bend and just thinking about what I want to do, the techniques and everything, there's just a way you kind of get yourself ready when you do something. I've bent steel all the time. I've bent thousands of pieces of steel. So you just, there's just a whole process when you're getting warmed up and whatnot, where you're just kind of getting yourself ready, kind of getting yourself in tune and warm and feeling good and getting the confidence.
Seeing the bend happen? Are you seeing the metal move in your mind's eye? What are you seeing in your mind's eye?
Yeah, I will. I'll be picturing it while I'm getting ready, and and still talking positively to myself too, and telling myself I'm going to do it. And I definitely will still be thinking about it leading up to the bend.
Okay, so this is a big question. So describe for me in as much detail as possible what you learned from steel bending.
Learned so much from steel bending. There's so many different facets, mental and physical. So I think one big thing, is you learn that there's great human potential. I mean, all of us have so much potential in ourselves that's untapped. And like I've got the Mighty Atom shirt on, and Mighty Atom's one of my favorite, really my favorite strongman ever. And my favorite quote is his quote: "Place no limits upon yourself, and you will have none." And I firmly believe that. You don't want to limit yourself. Just because nobody's ever done it before, you don't let that bother you. If it's something you want to do, you get the plan and you accomplish it. And so I think it just has shown me that, a lot of these bars and stuff that people bend, they really shouldn't be bent, but people have obsessed about them and trained themselves and gotten their mind ready to where they do bend them. And so I think it's taught me there's huge potential in all of us. I've always had a pretty strong mind and learned a ton. And my college wrestling coach was a maniac, Coach Shooter, and he was on the All Army wrestling team. And we always said we were in Shooter's Army. And so I learned a lot about mental toughness and not quitting from him when I was in college. But I think steel bending has taken that even, much further than I had it before. I think you learn a lot about willpower and, mental power and control and toughness. From a physical standpoint, I think steel bending teaches you how to generate force. It teaches you your nerves to be really strong because it is such like an isometric type activity. You can really, that mind, muscle connection where you're really teaching your nerves to fire and coordinate. Yeah, those are some of the things I've learned that I think are really important.
Awesome. So what environment do you find optimum for bending and why?
So most of the time I just bend in my garage. I go out in my garage, I'm by myself, no music. I don't like distractions. I just like to be by myself and have the steel. And so that's how I bend, 99% of the time. I like bending with people too. I've been to competitions. I host my own competition. We've had bending events, Zast in my house and stuff where you bend around other people. And I've bent very well in those situations too. So sometimes when you got other people around that can, that feels good bending in front of other people and they can help get you motivated a little bit. But my ultimate way to bend is just by myself in my garage. That's how I do it normally. And that's ideal for me.
Okay, you mentioned you kind of turn it on, like turning on a light switch when you decide you're going to commit to a bend. What's that like?
It's just, and that's probably something I've learned from bending too, is I don't know, you just kind of do it. Like I don't have a real good explanation on how you do it. It'll take like right before the bend, there's, like a second or 2 seconds, 3 seconds where I just kind of, stare off and I, kind of, like I said, breathe real fast, real quick and kind of almost make my body hyperventilate. And I can feel like my nerves start firing, my fingers start twitching, and then I'm ready to go. It's, I don't know. I think it's probably a personal thing. Like in Derek's, he had his way of doing it and, to get himself in that position that everyone's probably got different ways to get there, but it's something I've learned to get to faster and faster.
That's cool. That's awesome. I think that's extremely important to be able to get to that moment quickly in a lot of situations that we could potentially come into. I think there's a very good transferable skill to that. I mean, survival wise, defense wise, a lot of things, you're just lifting something and it's too heavy and slips and you activate that extra power. I think that's extremely important. I could
Absolutely
wind up saving your life, So you mentioned this a little bit. How's confidence play a role for you in bending?
Yeah, like I said before, it's everything. I got to be confident going into it, belief in myself. If I don't believe that I'm going to bend that piece of steel, the chance of me bending it is zero. I mean, it really is. I mean, I have to believe and know I'm going to bend that or it's not going to bend.
Is there anything that impacts your confidence before going into a bend or during a bend?
It's been built up just long before that, just with my, the visualization and the positive talk I was telling you about just to myself. I'm just talking positive to myself all the time, like I learned from Eric Fiorello. And I've really incorporated that and expanded upon that. And that's really what I do. But it's, I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think that enough positive self-talk can put you in a state where you're almost unshakable with your confidence.
Yeah, your mind, you should be your own best friend. You shouldn't be negative about it. If you're negative and down on yourself, I mean, probably not the best way to live or to get your body to go along with what you want it to do. So I look at my mind and, my emotions and my body all as being partners and working together, coordinated effort.
Do you do any extra steps or go through any other mental processes when you're going for a bend you've never done before? Big PR?
No, it's all the same. I mean, most of all the stuff I've talked about is with the PR bend. Now, if it's just a normal training bend or just some, I may just think about doing some bend that day. I've never thought about it before, but it's something that, I thought it'd be cool to try that day. Or maybe it's a bend I've done 1,000 times and I haven't done double underhand in a while. So I'm just going to do a bastard double underhand or, whatever. I won't do any visualization or anything specific for that. All the visualization and those sorts of steps are with like, big bends. They're like the PR, big type bends. Normal bends, I don't do that stuff, but I mean, I still may be thinking in my head about it a little bit beforehand, but not to the extent.
So how do you describe for me how you experience and handle distracting thoughts or external distractions in the gym during your bends? How do you deal with that?
I think that may go a little bit with the kind of flip your switch, being able to get there quickly, because distractions come up. The wife comes out to talk to you, the kids are out playing in the yard, neighbor, I got my garage doors up, neighbors come by, say hi. You get distractions sometimes, but then just being able to say hi, how you doing, it's not like you're ignoring people or whatever, you're polite, say hi, and and then go back to your thing, because you can get there quick, because you taught yourself to get in that mind state quickly. So it's not a long process for me, so I can get back to it quickly.
That's awesome. I'm not quite there yet with my bending. I have to be pretty ramped up the whole time. If I get out of it, then I don't get back into it as quick, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, it's all a process, man. You got stronger in bending way faster than I did. I forget how long you said you've been bending, but you said you've been a red nail. It took me a year to bend a red nail the first time.
I think I did about a dozen bends over the course of a couple months before I did the red.
Yeah, way faster than me. It's
I think I had a good amount of leveraging background from using like long staffs and long weapons and swords, like large swords, growing up in martial arts. All these years, you never really think of it until retrospect. You realize, oh, I've been
on the wrist,
a weight out there all these years. And then I used grippers a whole lot for years before getting into anything else with grip sport. I just had a set of grippers and trained up to like a 2.5. So when I went into bending, I had a little bit of a foundation.
Yeah, that's good.
That, and I think that just having flexibility from Cody mentions this a few times, but just being a grappler, you work on flexibility in your upper body. And once I found the groove for the double overhand, it just melted, the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got there so fast. A lot of people lately have gotten there pretty fast, but it was not fast for me. It took a lot of work. It took like a year to bend my first red nail.
Yeah, Ben mentioned some pretty intense work to get up to bending his first red nail, passing out on his tool bench, and some pretty crazy stuff. So yeah, it's intense.
Yeah, no, I listen to Ben. I like Ben. He's got a lot of really good old posts on the grip board about training and stuff that I enjoyed over the years. And I thought it was pretty crazy with him sitting up in front of the table and passing out doing isometrics. And while we're talking about mental stuff, so I'm a huge proponent of isometrics. Like I do isometrics for bending, not all the time, but sometimes. But I'm an even bigger proponent of just general body isometrics for strength. Okay. And I think they're just a huge builder of power and strength. But they also teach you to fire your nerves and teach that nerve power. And they teach, because you're just going against something that's not moving. I feel like it's a great way for you to teach your body to fire, a greater percentage of muscle fibers. And I'd recommend to anyone out there to incorporate isometrics. I've been doing them almost solely for my general strength training since like June or July. And my general strength has went up quite a bit since then.
Wow, that's really cool to know. Yeah, I had an instructor a long time that was really into Bruce Lee, and I don't know if you know much about Bruce Lee's training, but he did a lot of isometric work.
He did, yeah.
He was extremely explosive. So I mean that shows you it works. Let's see. So what sensations stand out the most during your bending experience? Like, is it the force you feel? Is it what sensation do you feel in your body the most?
I don't know. When I'm in the bend, I'm just kind of doing the bend.
In the zone.
I'm not really feeling. I'm just bending. There's pain there. The pain's kind of there, but you kind of just ignore it. And I'm just trying to bend as hard and as powerful and explosively as I can into the bar. I just kind of am in the moment, really, I guess, just trying to be powerful and I like to bend fast if I can. I feel better if I'm bending faster. Okay. Sometimes you got to take breaks between hits if it's, that type of bar. But ideally for me, I like to move quickly. And so I'm just trying to move quick and powerfully through the bend.
So you said you're kind of in the zone. Are you aware of anything that's going on around you while you're actually bending, or is it just complete focus?
Yeah, I'm aware of everything. I mean, like I said, like I could be in the middle of a bend, neighbors come by, say hi to me while I'm in the middle of, trying to wrench down on some bar. Hey, Don, hey, how's it going? But then I got to get right back to it. So
They've gotten
I'm
used to
aware of
that, huh?
stuff. What's that?
Your neighbors, they've gotten used to that?
Oh yeah, they all, I'm sure, think I'm somewhat nuts. Especially with the Gardnall. Like, you know what a Gardnall is?
Uh-uh.
So it's a tool that ancient Indian wrestlers used. And it's a big stone wheel that you wear
Oh,
around
okay. It's
the necklace.
collar. The big stone collar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's called
I know
Gardnall.
exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so
I
I've
heard
got
it pronounced
one.
a little bit differently growing up, maybe. But yeah, I know
Okay.
exactly what you're talking about.
And so
You're out there wearing that while you're bending?
oh yeah, I will go for walks through my neighborhoods wearing that, and people think you're either an idiot or you're insane, or maybe
That's
both.
awesome. What's yours weigh?
I've never weighed it. I would say in the 50 to 60 pound range, something like that.
That's about right.
Not really about I mean, it is about the weight, but the thing is just, if you had a 50-pound backpack on, it wouldn't be anything. But the way it pulls on your neck, it is so uncomfortable. And so I like to do walks. Some people do squats and other exercise with it, but what I normally do when I'm using it is I just like to walk for distance. And it just kills your neck and your whole spinal column.
It's a great exercise for upper body strength, though, without, much intensity. I mean, you're just going for a walk.
Yeah, your spinal erectors and all the way up your spine, gets lit on fire, your traps, the neck. I mean, it's good. It's painful too. And I don't know, it's probably something good too, just to develop your willpower and toughness too. I'm sure it helps with that.
Absolutely. I like those kind of workouts. Let's see. Can you describe for me a time when either internal or external events actually impacted your performance when you were bending?
What do you mean by events?
So like a distraction actually impacts you and you have to quit a bend or you don't do as well because of it. Has that ever happened to you?
And most time it would
mental
be a
distraction or
distraction where I just don't feel good that day for whatever reason. I'm just having a bad day, like physically. I don't know. Some days you just feel like shit and you just can't get motivated to bend. And, that's when I'll do the strolling or, just get started and, maybe do things I haven't done in a while or whatnot. I normally don't get too distracted in the middle of a bend, but sometimes beforehand, I'm just not feeling good and not in it.
So what do you go through after you failed to bend and you're in preparation of a reattempt? What's your experience with that?
Like the same day or a different day?
Doesn't have to be the same day. It could be another day.
Yeah, that's kind of, it's kind of like with that, 12.9 volts, now I failed it on Wednesday, but I got damn close and I'm, real close to finishing it. And so now it's, just thinking about it, watching the video, just, getting ready to go at it again.
What are you looking for when you're watching your video?
The form, what, if there's any parts of my form that looked off, when did the bar move? Like what got it moving? Is it, was I in a certain position when the bar really got moving well while other positions weren't working so well? Was I wasting my time? And then I've learned that like with some of these long bars too, where, the first time I did maybe the chest pull is real good with some bars, but some bars I just don't get any movement on. And so the first time I attempt it, I may try the chest pull and stuff. And then I'm watching my video. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I spent 45 seconds trying to do that chest pull. The bar didn't move at all. I'm wasting energy. The bar is cooling down because it's not moving. If I would have just scrapped that chest pull and instead just kept at it, in my crush down like this and kept hammering, I would have got it down so much quicker. So I just look at ways I can improve and what worked and what didn't work. And sometimes I'll build my confidence with it. Like I'll look at, how fast I did it at certain points or whatnot. And I can be like, wow, look how quick it moved there. If I can just get to that position quicker, I'm going to be able to do this bend within 5 minutes. Or watch the 6-inch and say, I did that 6-inch pretty smooth and pretty quick. This one's only half an inch shorter. I should be able to get this. Yeah, I love watching my old videos. I think you learn a lot, and you can refine your technique and refine your ability, and it helps you build that game plan to make yourself better and do better next time. I like watching other people's videos too. Especially right when I first started long bar bending, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago or whatever, the way I taught myself to bend long bars and mid-length bars was going to David Horn's webpage, watching all the videos on there, watching every other video I could find, and just seeing what people did. And then I would try it. And if it worked, I kept it. If it didn't work, I'd throw it out. And I ended up making my style kind of a combination of, 5 or 6 other people pulling little pieces from here or there.
Yeah, that's great advice. I looked at a lot of bending videos when I first started too. And my biggest thing is I kept trying to bend down. And you don't see it on the videos. You don't really see that people are bending out on the videos because almost everybody faces directly with the camera. But I saw a video, I couldn't remember which one it was, where someone was just a little bit off, and I went, whoa, holy cow, I'm doing something wrong.
That's one of the most common mistakes.
I got some narrative as well, so that helped. Yeah, that was definitely a big sticking point for me. So is there any difference in your anxiety when you go into bending something you failed before, or have you pretty much blocked that off before you go into the bend?
Yeah, no.
Do you think anything immediately after you fail an attempt?
Sometimes I'm frustrated. I can definitely be a little frustrated right off, but I just try to put it away and move on.
So what are your thoughts and emotions after you finally complete a bend that you've tried several times?
It's that satisfaction, it's that, that's why you do it. It feels good. Once you've obsessed about something, that's kind of the end point of it, where you got there, the thing you've been visualizing and obsessing about, you got there.
That's awesome. How long does that stick with you?
Yeah, like I said before, it doesn't stick there that long. And I feel like the more I bend and the more bends I complete, it sticks with me less and less. Or you just, yeah, you feel good, but now what's the next thing? It's probably a good thing. You don't want to just sit there looking at something you already did. You want to be moving forward with your life. And, yeah, an accomplishment's good, but that was yesterday. Leave yesterday being yesterday. And now let's go forward in the future.
Okay. So you mentioned going to a video after you fail an attempt. Are there any thoughts or emotions that you have after you give up on a bar and decide I'm not doing it today?
Can you say that one more time? I'm not sure if I 100% follow the question.
Any thoughts or emotions that you get when you decide I can't finish this bar today and put it off to the side?
No, it's like I said, it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
To me, it's training, and I just look at it as training, and I'll fight another day and I'll get it another day.
Okay, now the next questions are not psychological at all. They're mainly just for adding safety to the conversation. What can you describe for me in as much detail as possible any steps out of the norm that you take to increase safety and reduce the risk of injury when you're bending?
Yeah, I think being good with your technique and warming up are probably essential for bending. Bending can be dangerous. I luckily have never had any big injuries, but there's been plenty of people over the years who have hurt themselves. So I think warming up is very important. I do some bars to warm up, like with unbraced bending, but I like more just a general warm up with light weights, calisthenics, jumping rope, just kind of get my body loose and warm. Indian clubs, I'm huge on Indian clubs for shoulder health. And so just the whole warm up is very important to me. And then the other things, just technique. If you got some sloppy technique or you're, hammering out a bar in some awkward way, that's probably a recipe for getting hurt. While you have good technique and optimal mechanics, it's gonna lead to, you know, a longer bending career and bending bigger bars.
So you said you haven't really been injured. Is there any time that you were injured during a bend?
I mean, I've been, yeah, I mean, I guess it's what you define as an injury. I mean, my hands have been destroyed. I've had my hands where the whole palm's basically torn off and I'm bleeding down my arm. And, you know, I've had tears that are very bad. To me though, that's just part of the process. I've had little tweaks. You get little tweaks all the time. The biggest thing that ever, you know, I guess probably does qualify as some sort of injury was my inner elbow here. On the, it was Alexander's Ass Day. We had an event at my house, and I had all the Michigan benders over, and I did my reverse bastard cert to be on the bastard in every way list. And I just, whatever, I injured my elbow right here. And still with reverse, if I do big reverse bends, it's still, I feel it right here. So that's probably, it doesn't hurt me doing anything else, but just with reverse bends, I'll feel it there. So that's probably the biggest injury I've had. But you do get minor tweaks. I mean, that's just kind of the name of the game, is getting little tweaks or things, and you just train around it and it heals up.
So what are your thoughts and how do you respond to your injuries during your bends? So say like maybe tore up hands when you still have hundreds of nails to go, or any other injury when you still got things going. What are your thoughts? How do you respond to it? How do you make adjustments to your bending as a result of that?
Yeah, so with the like with the tore up hands, like with the endurance stuff, that's how the feat gets completed. You know, that's when you're really in the feat, is when the hands are tore and you got to keep going. And because, you know, you can get where your body's not feeling good. Like when I by the time I got done with 102 red nails, my fingers were voluntarily twitching, and I mean, my body was bad. You know, I was internally bad off. And with the first 50-pound box of 60 pennies I did, my chest was spasming really bad at the end from all the crushing. It was just spasming almost involuntarily, and my traps were killing. And you know, your muscles are beat up, your hands hurt. I mean, it's really easy to quit that. I mean, and so I've really learned, you know, some ways to keep going in that. And I learned a lot of them from David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. Like, I don't know if you've ever read that book, but I highly recommend that book. That's my like Bible for mental strength and mental toughness. It's so much good stuff in it. Have you read that book before? Or?
Which one by David Goggins?
It's this book right here. I actually got it right here because we're talking about mental stuff. It's called Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, definitely. We actually studied that one.
Yeah. You should study it. I've got it marked up and highlighted all through the book, and I will just flip through it and read random stuff, and it's a good way to psych me up too. I really love that book. But some of the things he talks about are things I'll use in those big feats. One is actually I learned from my wrestling coach that he talks about too, and it's one of the most important ones. When you've still got hundreds of bends to go and you're bloody and you're tired, you know, the thought of doing another 200 bends can just overwhelm you. And if you're thinking about doing 200 more, you may not get there. So you chunk it up. And my wrestling coach was always big with this. We would go on these really long distance, crazy runs, and sometimes in plastics and in the heat. Like, he really liked us getting out there in 100-degree heat in the summer with high humidity, doing these long runs. And he would just have us chunk it up. You know, he would always tell you to run foam pole to foam pole. Yeah. And so you would always see the next foam pole down there. And in your mind, the only thing you're thinking is getting to that next foam pole. Yeah. So you get to that foam pole, then you're thinking about getting to the next one. You know, you're not thinking about the finish line. You're just chunking it up in the steps. And so that's how I'll do it with the nails. It may be, okay, say I'm at 280. All right, let's just get to 300 and see how I feel at 300. And so boom, boom, boom. You get to 300. I feel good. Okay, let's get to 325. Okay, you know, and then when it's getting real bad, it may just be one more nail. All right, let's bend another nail. You know, let's just bend one more, and then you can see how you feel. Okay, just one more. Because the whole key is just not quitting. Yeah. It's just doing one more. The only way you're assured to fail the feat is if you quit right now. But if you do one more, you're still moving. And then you do that one, you can do one more. And it's just kind of chunking it up. And sometimes when you chunk it up like that, you can catch a second wind, where then you get back to where you're just smoothly going through it. But that's a very powerful technique that David Goggins talks about. My wrestling coach taught me, that I really use with those endurance bends. Another thing that Goggins talks about a lot is that all anguish is finite. You know, I really will just think about that. You know, it's, yeah, this may hurt like fuck right now, but this is gonna, you know, go away. My hands may be bleeding on my arm, but they're gonna heal up. You know, now I'll have done this feat forever, but my hands will heal. That's finite. The pain's just short term. It will get better. And so thinking about it like that. He also talks about the 40% rule, where he says when you're at your absolute worst, where you're basically dead, you don't think you can bend another nail, your body really is only at its 40% level. It's your mind that's trying to shut you down. It's the governor there. And so knowing that, you know, yeah, I'm about dead now, but I've got 60% left. You know, that, thinking about that and that motivation can help get you through. So I think those are some of the keys, I think, that help with the endurance bending. Oh, and the other, maybe the most important thing with the endurance bending, and maybe with normal big bends too that are painful and hurt, is you have to have a reason why you're doing it. Because when that doubt comes into your head, because the doubt always comes into your head if you're doing something that's painful and you're tired, and you know, it's easy to go inside and sit on the couch and watch TV and grab a beer or whatever. You got to know, why am I here putting myself through this hell? You've got to have that answer internally before you go into the feat or the training or the, you know, the painful thing. And if you have that clear answer in your head, you can always go back to that answer, and it'll always be something more important than that short-term pain you're going through.
So what is that answer for you? Why are you bending?
I mean, the answer to the question can be different depending on what the thing is, but you know, ultimately, it's something that's fun. I kind of like putting myself through the pain, to be honest with you. But yeah, the ultimate answer on why am I doing this when you're in the pain and whatnot, it's because you got some feat you want to do, and it normally ends up being, it's a record, or it's, you know, a list only one person's done or nobody's done it. You know, so it's got to be, you know, lots of times something like that, it's got to be a goal that you think is worthy and badass for some reason. And it's going to be personal to everyone. And, you know, feats I may think are badass may not mean anything to someone else. It's a personal thing, but it's got to be important to you enough to where you're willing to put yourself through hell and do the sacrifices to get there, and not accept quitting as an option. Because that's always in my head too. Quitting is not an option. It's got to be, you know, that's not even a thought in your head. You got to plow through it.
Okay. Kind of answered this a little bit. This is the last question. So when you're going into a bend that you haven't done before, say like the 100 red nails or some of your monster long bars, how do you know you're not going to get injured? What are your thoughts regarding the potential risk of injury?
I mean, I don't know. I don't even really think about there's a possibility to get injured. Just like if you're going in to do a squat or a deadlift, I mean, I would think if you're thinking about getting injured when you're going into a PR deadlift or squat or something, you're not going to do it. I mean, your body's going to be holding you back in some sense because it's scared of that injury. So I'm not thinking about injury. It's just, you know, I'm warmed up. So it's the warm up, and then it's using good technique. So I just use those two things. And, you know, if you get a tweak or something, it's really beyond my control. I control what I can control, and the things I can't control, you know, I can't control it. So why obsess about it or make it something in my mind where it's going to limit me?
Okay. Anything else you want to add about the mental aspects of steel bending, or anything you want to say about the sport?
No, I would just, I mean, I honestly love steel bending so much. It's such a passion and obsession of mine. And I would just tell people, one, find what you like. That's one of the greatest things about steel bending is there's so many different avenues and different types of bends and different certs and different records. Find what you think is fun or cool or badass or whatever, and and then set yourself up some big goals. That's really how you get to doing big things. You get big goals, then you get a game plan, and then you obsess over it and you just stick with it. And I think one important thing too is the time of it. The longer you're doing it, you're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. I think, and that may be something too, and maybe the way people get hurt the most is you go out and you just try to rip ass when your body's not ready for it. And honestly, doing some huge bend and then getting hurt and then never bending again. I mean, whatever. I mean, think about if you were bending for 10 more years and you're just incrementally, you're just getting a little bit stronger every bending session, boom, 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 boom. By the end of those 10 years, getting a little stronger every session. I mean, you're going to be so much stronger than if you just ripped ass and hurt yourself really quick. So I think just, knowing that this is a long game. This isn't just about ripping ass and getting hurt. It's, build that strength. And sometimes that strength takes time, and give yourself the time. And it's crazy how much you can add up over years and years. Bend and bend.
Absolutely. I've only been doing it a tiny bit, but I'm already starting to find what styles I like and what I want to do with bending. And I'm really
what do you like? What are you having fun with?
I'm really into the wrist bending, the Heslop style and the vertical style.
Okay.
Yeah, I dig both of those a lot. I really feel like they'll transfer really well over into grip. They'll transfer well over into any type of locks that I do in grappling, any type of arm movements I do. So I really like those a lot. I'm digging those.
Yeah, you almost never see anyone do that.
What's that?
You almost never see anyone doing those two types of bends.
The Heslop is tough as ever. I did not think it was going to be as tough as it was. It was tougher to do that than laying on the ground with my arms out in front of me trying to do it.
Yeah.
It's just tough with your arms floating there out. It's crazy. It's no way to get power into it. Doesn't feel like, it's all right there in the wrist. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've done very little of it. I have tried it. And it's very awkward and it feels weird. It kind of torques your shoulders too, because you're doing a rotation with the shoulder. So do you have any goals with those types of bends that you want to do, or
just to transfer into grip?
Okay.
Yeah, I use bending now mainly to work on my grip. So I really like the vertical because it's you're pulling this way instead of doing it this way. So it works the other aspect of your wrist. I like that. Yeah. That's a different style of bending. But I liked that one more than the Heslop. I didn't feel anything in my shoulder, any issue. But yeah, I felt my shoulder tweaked for a couple of days after that Heslop bend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's I haven't done much of it.
I have to dial that one back a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's one that probably puts a lot of pressure in kind of weird positions that you got to kind of build up to.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I had to ask you today. Is there anything that you wanted to ask us, Couch Potato Strong?
No, that's it. I listened to a couple of your interviews. I listened to Ben's and Adam's and Derek's. They were all great interviews. I got a lot out of listening to them. Those three guys are all, immensely strong people that I've really respected at different points in my bending career. And so it was cool to see, those interviews. Adam in particular, I think Adam is, for one, he's just insanely strong, but he is really smart about his training, and he's just smart about strength. And I've always liked the Motivation of Muscle podcast he was on. I've always learned a lot from listening to Adam. And then Ben and Derek, Ben was a beast and Derek is a beast. So it was cool listening to those.
Yeah, I think the testament to Adam is look at the guys that he's training or look at the guys that he works with and where they're at now. And I mean, obviously they're unbelievable.
They got a real good group down there. It's really cool that they have a group that can push themselves and, kind of work together. I'd love to make it down sometime and hang out with the whole group. I went down to Texas last January for Old Time Strongman University, and I met Adam there. It was the first time I'd met him, and I met Robert Najedli, but I haven't met any of the other guys down there in Texas. But I'd love to go down sometime and maybe train with them for a weekend or something. I'm sure it'd be a hell of a time. They all seem like good guys.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We plan on doing a road trip eventually as well. That'd be cool. Yeah, that's kind of our goal as well, is to build up a little community here in the Northwest. There used to be a grip community here that was actually pretty decent. They did the Rolling Thunder contest for, I don't know, 17 years or so, and then it just died off. It just died off a few years back, and hasn't been much going on with it. But with the pandemic, there's been no races in the obstacle course racing circuit, and those guys have pretty good grips. You get a lot of rock climbers. You know, Tanner Merkel came from rock climbing.
Yeah.
So, those rock
I
climbers.
thought you started the 3.5.
Insane stuff.
Did
Yeah,
you
I
see
saw
that?
you did the 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
I don't know if that was yesterday or today or when that was, but I just saw a post on the grip board today.
Yeah, I just saw that on Instagram today. That's amazing. That's an incredible feat, and I guess he doesn't even hardly play with grippers.
Yeah, no, he's insanely strong.
But yeah, we had a rock
it's nice to
come over here and like hub 245s with never touching him before in that manner. You know, I never thought about lifting a weight from the middle. It's no problem, you know. It's just those rock climbers, they have some finger strength.
No doubt. I used to be a climber. That was my obsession before bending was climbing. And so I love climbing. I would probably still be climbing and maybe would have never even gotten into steel bending if I lived somewhere where I could climb outdoors, you know. But I live in Michigan, and I would drive down to the Red River Gorge in Kentucky to go outdoor rock climbing all the time. And then I was really big into climbing vertical ice, frozen ice walls.
Okay.
And the closest ice climbing was 6 hours in the UP in Michigan. And so I got just kind of burned out of climbing in the gym and not being able to climb outside. And then I quit climbing, and then eventually got into the steel bending. So if I lived in Colorado or something, I may have never even gotten into steel bending. It's probably still be fun.
How'd your climbing skills transfer into steel bending?
I mean, you get strong hands.
Yeah.
Hand strength was always something I was into. I've always liked training. Like my dad was on the Marine Corps powerlifting team. And so I started training in 6th grade, lifting weights, and started wrestling in the 6th grade too. And I remember I had the Iron Mind catalogs and stuff in high school, and I bought John Brookfield's Mastery of Hand Strength when I was in high school. So I was doing some hand strength stuff in high school, and you know, and then we're wrestling and then climbing. I've always enjoyed hand strength and always just found something fascinating about it. So the climbing definitely gives you some of that hand strength that carries over to, you know, to the bending and whatnot.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us. We'll be sending you a set of our golden potatoes for joining us. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I look forward to that.
You pull some good weight with them, maybe get a record. They're always fun.
I'm probably not breaking any records in grip. I don't train grip at all. I'm definitely not breaking any records, but I'll give it a go. But yeah, nice show. I've enjoyed the ones I've seen. I enjoyed them, and I'll enjoy following them going forward. So thanks for doing this.
Anybody you'd like to see on the show also talking about their mental aspects of bending?
All the people that Derek said are great to be on there. David Wigran, I think would be good. I've always really liked watching his videos and whatnot, and have thought that he's one of the greatest steel benders ever, because he's been so strong for so long, and in so many different styles. He to me is just a phenomenal bender. So and he also seems like a really smart, analytical person. So I would like to, you know, hear what he had to say about mental stuff. And then there's somebody else I'd like to hear is Pat Poviolaitis. He's one of the most intense and strongest benders ever too. I think those two guys, I would love to hear what they had to say about mental stuff.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. Have a wonderful day, and I thank you for coming on and talking about it. Got to get this conversation rolling so we can get some more people looking into it. I absolutely feel there are mental and physical benefits to training in steel bending. I mean, just
it's not even a question.
Yeah. So I think, you know, in order to get a study on it or to get anybody to really look into it, we got to get the conversation going. And that's kind of
that's awesome.
here. All right.
Cool. Have a good one.
Take care.